Hi, DM Dango here. Going to be doing something a little different this time. I'm going to be doing a video on how to do voice acting, or more specifically, how that voice acting pertains to Dungeons & Dragons or any other tabletop RPG. I'm going to be attempting to teach you how to do or change your voice in such a way that your players are more immersed in your game. I'm also going to be looking at some of the psychological effects of these changes to your players. So, come along. So, you want to know how to sound like the Beholder from High Rollers, or you want to know how to sound like the Gunpowder Merchant from Critical Role. You want to make your voice sound different. Well, first you need to know one thing. You need to know why. Why do I need to make my character sound different? What benefit is there? You're probably thinking right now, well, they should. So, characters, for instance, have ways of speaking because they do certain things. Because they are certain things. A mad beholder wouldn't sound like the way I'm sounding. He would sound mad. He would speak a certain way. He would talk quicker. He would move from subject to subject very quickly. Conversely, the Gunpowder Merchant, he's crazy as well. He talks a certain way. Whereas somebody like... who's a good one? Somebody like Korak from High Rollers talks a different way. They talk differently, and everyone knows what they're about without ever having to say, that character must be crazy, or that character is powerful, in command, in charge, confident. You know without having to be told, without needing to be told, because you are hardwired to understand certain things on tonal quality. It is part of who you are as people. So, I split the voices I do for Larethel, my Sunday stream, into 3 basic categories. And the first of which is speed. How quickly am I talking? How slowly am I talking? The second of which is pitch. How high or low pitched is my voice when I'm using this character? The third of which is accents, which are kind of a combination of tone, speed, and a third thing where you're changing certain words, characters, or length in syllables to different things. The fourth, actually, is effects. Raspiness, growls, snarls, these all fit into that. And they have a way of exacerbating certain aspects of a character. If you've seen the latest Critical Role, you would have heard the raspiness of a little girl's voice and felt compelled to protect and help her because she's weak and innocent. And it's because of that characterization of the voice that you get that across. It's not Matt's description, although that helps. It's her voice, or Matt's voice and his interpretation of that voice. So, the first one, speed. How fast or slow are you talking? A character who talks slowly, who takes his time with every syllable, and never, ever goes too quickly for anything, gives a certain impression. It does not denote the lack of intelligence. More precisely, it perhaps shows a lack of empathy, or potentially a great deal plotter, a planner, somebody who does not waste time. Conversely, somebody who speaks quickly, who moves from point to point to point, who never dillies or dallies, or whoever even stays in anyone in place for anyone at a time, who can barely understand anything he says because his mouth is moving so quickly, his brain can't seem to keep up. Gives different characterizations. It allows a player to understand a character without you having to explain or describe anything. They know something about this character, instinctually. They don't even have to say it, but they know it. It's powerful. Part of that, though, is the choice of words. Choosing which words to use, either monosyllabic or polysyllabic, is important. So using huge, gigantic words like polysyllabic and monosyllabic is a big part of this. Part of that as well, if you're not doing an online game, and if you are, you should be using you definitely should be using a webcam. It helps a lot. Is your posture, how you're doing things. This is my Matt Colville voice, if you cannot tell. It allows your characters to see the way you're reacting, the movements of your hands, the way you shift. Brings a lot of different things to the table. The character knows a character who's doing this is potentially looking only for your money, whereas a character who does this drumming their fingers, creating this intricate display, might be up to no good. They know it. They don't know why, but something in their core, in what they are, says this person is not to be trusted for any reason. The next one is pitch. Pitch is more complicated because it requires you to do things with muscles that you may not exercise very often or at all. Pitch is the ability to control how deep, 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 deep your voice is. How deep is your voice after all? Oh, how high it gets, my lord, that gets high. To do a high pitch, you're stretching the muscles here. You can feel them when you go higher and 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 higher. I probably broke somebody's eardrums just then. Probably my wife's. Surprised she isn't yelling at. To go lower, you are moving your abdomen in. You are stretching your diaphragm. You are allowing more voice in, and I am exacerbating this by choosing certain words carefully. It's the same thing, just in reverse. It's interesting how this ends up working, how this ends up changing the way your players respond to you. So, accents. How do I sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger? How do I sound like Jack Nicholson? How do I make my voice sound that way? There's not a really good answer here. Best thing that I could say is imitation. Find somebody you like or hate or whatever and imitate them. There's no reason not to. No one's going to know except your players. And they're not going to know that you're trying to imitate Jack Nicholson. They're only going to know that here's looking at you, kid. Even though that's not Jack Nicholson. But that's the point. Nobody knows that you're trying to imitate certain actual real-life people. They just know that that voice now belongs to that character. And that's part of the point of this video, is to say, just try. Why not? What do you got to lose? You look a little silly. But then you're playing Dungeons & Dragons. And to be fair, for a long time, this hobby was all about you were looking silly in a basement with your friends. And you should have the right to feel like in your Dungeons & Dragons space, while you are the Dungeon Master, or even a player, you're in a safe space. Do what you want. Do what you feel comfortable with, more specifically. If you're not comfortable doing these voices or trying these, fine. You'll still enjoy it. You'll still have a great time. But try and keep an open mind when people do try it for themselves. So, accents themselves, though, I find them tricky. I find keeping consistently difficult. The thing that I use to keep them consistent, though, is I write down the name of the artist, actor, or personality I'm trying to emulate with this character specifically. So I have written down some next to some of my characters, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or incredibly old man that I met once, or even I put my grandfather in there. Because that's the kind of person I'm trying to emulate. And that's how I came up with Thomas, the old man, who is a butler of great Russia. Yeah. He has a specific accent. Australian has a specific accent, has a way of speaking. And then I just ended up in Cary Grant again. But I can't keep it consistent, because I can't keep doing this over and over again, because certain accents lead to other ones. But there are other ones, like keywords. Keywords are a good way of slipping into an accent. Russian. For instance, if I say the word Russian, I end up in a Russian accent, whether I like it or not sometimes. Conversely, mint julep. Mint julep might make me end up in a southern accent. Or seems like Italian this time for some reason. I'm not sure why that happened, but we'll go with it. I used to have the characters and my players say quite frequently, why are all your characters have a southern drawl? Why are they all sounding like they're from the deep south? I don't understand that, Dungeon Master Avin. I don't understand why you sound like you're from the south when you've never even been there. It was one of the accents that got frequented in a lot of TV shows when I was growing up, and thus that's the one that stuck, the one that's easiest for me to slip into. I can't do anything specific. If somebody said, can you do a Bostonian accent or a regional or Newcastleian accent or Bristolian accent, I wouldn't be able to do it. But say, play that pirate. Arr, ye mateys, ye scurvy dogs, you're all a bunch of rat bastards. I can do that. Because the characterizations are based on movies, TV shows, or anything else. Because that's where I pull my accents from. Copy. DMs copy. Humanity copies. Copy and improve. That's the best way of going forward in anything. In Dungeon Mastering, that's what we do. We copy. There's a great quote, and I subscribe to this quite well. It is quoted by an inventor. I can't remember. I'll have to see if I can find the name later. But it says that I only see as far as I do because I stand on the shoulders of giants. You stand on the shoulders of everyone who's come before you. Every single piece of human civilization is built on the shoulders of those who came before you. And you see that little bit farther because they are standing on somebody else. So, effects. Growls and snarls. The word snarl kind of gives you the right impression about it. Growl gives you the right idea behind that. How to do those things. A growl. You summon it within you. You feel your throat vibrate when you say it. It's the same thing when you're trying to do it for real. Roar! Or when you're trying to do a dragon's roar. Roar! Building those things up, understanding how they work. It's the body motion. You can see when I'm doing a roar. I suck in first to build the air, then I breathe out quickly, pushing the air past my vocal cords quicker than they could handle it. It breathes to a roar. I wouldn't recommend doing it very often. The amount of stress it puts on you is quite extreme. It's the same thing with screams. You'll hear voice actors occasionally say they were coughing up blood from screaming so often. And this is a true thing that happens. Matt Mercer mentions it a few times where they kind of they ended up in a studio and at the end of it, they cough up blood. Because it's stressful on your vocal cords. Don't kill yourself doing any of these things, by the way. That's not what I'm recommending. The other thing is things like raspy voices. Bringing your voice across is something like this. Stretching the best. I'm pulling my vocal cords across. I'm letting the air linger in there longer. Allowing it to build and kind of rasp and stretch. Clicks. Hey. Just using my tongue to do that. Every single one of these is something you can do or learn to do as you practice. And that's the point. Practice. Try these. Do it in front of a mirror. Do it in front of your players. They're never going to know. They're never going to know that you were trying out something weird and unusual and you messed up. I've messed up. We've all messed up. Matt Mercer's messed up. We all have. We just do it. Because that's the way we learn. We learn by making mistakes. So then we don't do them again. Why do all of this? What's the benefit? Well, psychologically, your characters all of a sudden become more than just characters. They are alive. They have their own voices that are unique to them individually, or at least unique enough, as long as you want them to be unique. If you're doing random guard number 1, maybe just a gruff voice of, "Yeah, get out of my place. I need you to stop harassing people, and just be on your way. Come on, I don't need your shit." That's just my generic guard voice. I use it for a whole bunch of them, but they understand, my players understand, this is a guard not to be messed with. Whereas for certain characters, I use specific voices. My butler, Thomas, has a very particular way of speaking. "Yes, Master Nguyen, I knew you would be coming. It's important that we get all of the laundry." But it's not just speech in this case, it's also my mannerisms. It's also my posture and the way I'm sitting and the way I'm moving my hands that interprets the character's mental state and their possible characterization that I'm trying to read across. Thomas sounds slightly crazy and slightly senile. And he's supposed to. He's an old butler. He is as old as you get. But then you can do things like accents. You can pull certain accents because you know you can do them. You can do things like Australian. And I pull the Australian accent all the time. But it doesn't sound like Australian anymore. It sounds slightly southern. Because I'm moving between accents. I'm moving across a mint julep and sitting on a porch. Because that's the way I want to do this accent. But you have certain thoughts about that accent. They have cultural weight to them. Subconsciously. You know they exist. You know those subconscious tropes. And you will react to them as a person. Unless you're aware of it, obviously. Things like speaking like this, and I'm gonna go deal with that problem over there and help you out today, okay? I'll make sure you do not get into any trouble, you hear? Gives you a sense that this person is reliable. They have a certain accent that gives you a certain feeling. And there are certain other accents that have other feelings as well because of your own cultural education. Is the best word I can think of. Preying on those is useful. Giving your characters different ways of speaking can impart different ideas about the character. Matt Mercer recently, for the latest episode of Critical Role, if you haven't watched it, you should. It's amazing. There are characters in there. There's a little girl. You know nothing about her, but you want to protect her. You want to keep her safe. The players want to keep her safe. No matter what, they know she is innocent. They know she is an innocent. They have zero evidence for this. In fact, they have a lot of evidence to the contrary. But at the same time, the way the character sounds leads them to believe the opposite. And that's power. As a DM, you can use that power to tell better stories. And you should. Why not? It's your prerogative as a dungeon master to tell the best story you can. I am not saying, however, that every person and every dungeon master must learn to be a brilliant voice actor who is in every video game of every type, who can perform at the drop of a hat and can inspire. I am saying, do what you're comfortable with. I hope I've given you some tips. I hope I have given you some reasons for why to try this. I hope I've given you some reasons to kind of not worry so much about why you shouldn't. Your players are going to laugh at you. My players laugh at me. When I screw up an accent or I do something weird or I make a mistake, they laugh. We laugh together. You make mistakes, you learn, you move on. And that's how we grow. Because if you don't make mistakes, sometimes you don't grow. You don't change. You stagnate. So that's kind of all I have time for right now. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to do different things with this channel. I'm trying to do different styles of video. I hope this one was a little more interesting than some of the more DM reviews style things. I know some people really like those, and I'm hoping to do a really interesting one on minor magics next time. Thank you. Peace out.